Yo. Where that jar at?
What it is.
What it is, yo. What's good?
Let's pull out that jar, that ASMR jar. Where we ask a question and we discuss it. No rules, no format. Today's question is... What conspiracy theories do you believe are legit?
Oh no.
Good Lord.
All of them.
We're not gonna get to our stories today.
Yeah, we're about to out ourselves. I'll just say it, flat Earth. No, I'm just kidding.
You're the one who's like scared of learning about flat Earth, though.
Yeah, Jordan and Sean are always like, dude, let's watch the flat Earth documentary on YouTube or Netflix. And I'm like, I'm not trying to believe it. And I feel like I might if I watch it long enough. So
I watched it.
Oh, no.
I watched it by myself one day a few weeks ago.
How was it?
Trash.
Don't they disprove themselves in the...
Like over and over, yeah.
Not only do they disprove themselves, but they're just like trying to gas themselves up the whole time. They're like, you know, people just discredit us immediately and they don't give us a chance. And they say that over and over again and they don't give any evidence at all the whole time. They just talk about how they're the underdogs. It's like, well, yeah.
This is your chance. This is your chance. Like, tell us.
And you're telling me nothing?
Yeah, they don't like really give any evidence.
Well, I know why. Because there is none.
The funny thing too is it's a documentary, and documentaries, you can easily sway people to what you already are trying to portray, right? And so if you can't even do that in like your own produced, edited thing, like, you know, yeah, you're in for some trouble.
Why doesn't one of them just strap a GoPro to a freaking hot air balloon and like send it up? Like, you know what I mean?
Anything that has to do with cameras, they always resort to there's camera distortion answer. Yeah.
Well, there's going to be an answer for anything. So there's nothing you could tell them. It's like they want to believe what they believe, and there's nothing you could tell them otherwise.
Sounds like everyone else in the world right now.
Yeah. All right. Legit conspiracy theory. I do not believe. Dude, we're going to lose all of our fun.
Honestly, we might gain more from this.
Oh, true. Eddie Bravo, dude. Boy, let's get into it.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out at 10th Planet. I don't think we have footage of the moon landing. So
you believe we've actually been to the moon?
I believe it's highly possible, highly likely. It's completely possible, but I don't think what they've shown us of that mission is accurate.
It was definitely directed by Stanley Kubrick. Like, I believe that 100%. The older I've gotten, it just makes so much more sense. Like, the older you get, you're like, the U.S. government was just fooling everyone in the 70s. No one knows what the moon looks like on the ground. You know what I mean?
They were like, let's just
you
make
look
it up.
at that footage, like,
probably a basic question, but why haven't we been back with all the advancements we've been making?
There's more technology in our iPhones than the entire shuttle. So I've been told.
We have been back since then.
To the moon?
Oh yeah, like,
but
it's been like since like the 80s probably.
Humans.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't the last.
We need to
time
look that
went.
shit up.
I could be wrong.
There's really nothing there to go back for.
Yeah.
Like, do you see the video of that?
It's like, I've been to Arizona. Why would I go back?
That's true. Maybe the last shuttles were just for like space stations. So maybe that was the last moon landing.
Actually, and it looks like the last time that there were people on the moon, allegedly, was 1972. So it's been a while.
So I haven't been back.
Also, I think a lot of that was a flex for the Cold War too.
Just to be like, we made it there first.
Yeah, I think it was more of a political thing too. When was the first one?
1969.
Oh, nice.
Do you know how I know that? Ren Stevens from Even Stevens sang a song.
Conspiracies.
I have like 20, so you guys should jump in anytime.
Big Pharma and the cure for cancer.
Ooh, interesting.
Oh, I think we have the cure for cancer.
And AIDS. Yeah, I definitely think we've had the cure for cancer and AIDS.
How about you just go ask Magic Johnson?
Well, the cure for AIDS, I think it's already been out. Like, think about, like, you hear about people talk about New York and how there's sections where it just had so many AIDS, like everyone had AIDS, so many AIDS. Goodness, I sound so.
They had all the AIDS.
They had all the AIDS, and now you just don't hear about people dying of AIDS. Like no one dies of HIV now. Well, people who have money don't die of HIV.
What are your thoughts on JFK? The assassination.
It's not what the government's telling us. I think the government, Lyndon B. Johnson was in on JFK's assassination.
Damn, bro. Okay. At the very most, we took him out. At the very least, they're not telling us everything. Fair enough. And governments, it's like they don't tell. There's no like incentive to tell the public everything that goes on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You have more power if you don't show all your cards.
Bush did 9/11.
Oh gosh.
9/11 that's an interesting one.
That's me too. If you're passionately speaking about it, you can convince me. I'm like, oh shit, you know, maybe.
Because like they show like evidence for it, and you're like it was.
I mean, it's right there.
The way it blew up doesn't seem like a
jet
plane.
fuel doesn't melt steel beams.
What's the jet fuel thing that they always say?
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams, or something like that.
Or like Roswell, New Mexico cover up.
What about aliens?
Yeah, do you guys believe in a gray alien? Do you know that definition, the gray alien? Mm-hmm. For those who don't know what the term gray alien, and also keep in mind this is from my knowledge, so watch out. But it's like the stereotypical 3-foot high, super big head, no nose, big oval black eyes.
The emoji.
Yeah, that's like the gray alien. Do you guys believe in gray aliens?
I'm weirdly of the opinion where I just try to be open about everything so that I'm not wrong. Maybe it's like a personal narcissistic thing. I don't know where, you know what I mean?
You just don't want to be definitive.
Well, yeah, I just think it's foolish to be definitive.
Me too.
Think about anything anyone ever believed 100 years ago false or super unhealthy or things like that. And then even us 10 years ago we're finding out things that we were doing were just absurd and
Yeah. I feel you. It's definitely this. That's kind of how I am too. It's I believe it, but I'm open to being proven wrong because I'm sure I will be.
What's the main rule in Star Trek?
Don't wear a red shirt.
Exactly.
Don't watch.
Are you
Star
serious?
Trek.
Oh, no. Yeah, it is though, dude.
Is it? Oh, I have no idea.
Those guys always die.
Red shirts always die. That's all I know.
I don't know Star Trek super well, but their whole thing is they can't communicate with civilizations who haven't discovered how to travel at the speed of light yet.
Oh,
Why?
yeah. Okay, yeah.
Is that a rule that they all abide by?
Yeah, that's a universal rule. So it's when your world or civilization has discovered how to do that, then everyone else appears.
They're all filthy speed of sound peasants.
It's
really hard to say.
those tribes in the Amazon who have no idea that there's
Oh yeah.
the technology we have, right? Until we flew drones over them, and they're like, what is that?
Yo, there was that dude out at that island by India.
Sentinelese Islands? Sentinel Islands.
Sentinel Island. And a Christian missionary tried to go and convert everyone against the advice of everyone.
Wait, I missed this. When did this happen?
So this is an island that's protected by...
This year. It happened this year.
Oh, wow.
There's an island that's protected by, I think, the Indian government.
Okay.
Because they're an ancient tribe and they don't have technology. Their culture, language, everything, traditions are still pure. And they don't really have any knowledge about the outside world. So they're just kind of preserving them.
There's almost no contact with
That's
the outside
super
world.
cool that they're doing that, especially because the history of bigger governments just decimating native populations.
No, I think it's awesome.
That's way cool.
But there was an American, and he was a Christian, and he wanted to go and bring the gospel to them.
Okay, well,
and he and around this island, far enough where the natives can't see them, there's people patrolling, the government's patrolling, to make sure people don't go.
Wild. So you can't just that makes sense, because you would try to go visit. I would try to go visit them.
Yeah. So
dinosaurs are there or something.
This Christian missionary, and he's about our age, mid-20s, he got past the security patrol.
That's impressive.
Impressive.
God's hand.
He died.
God's
God's
plan.
hand.
God's hand once again.
If I'm right, some fishermen like went by the island and they just saw his ass full of arrows, and they were just like, they put him out on the beach and they're like,
Yeah.
"Fuck this dude."
Arrows. And when he started coming to the beach, they were throwing spears at him. And he had the Bible up.
And he was like, "I'll be safe."
Yeah.
Bro, do you realize how mistranslated that thing is?
Oh, it's conspiracies? No.
That's wild. I did not realize that. That's hilarious. Also, are they like patrolling I imagine they're patrolling in a way where the people can't see them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're just like, what's that jet boat out there?
Yeah.
They're all just pretending they actually know, but they're just living the better life of everyone
They
else
don't
right
wanna-
now.
They don't want to pay taxes.
Like, I got no taxes. I don't have any worry about my credit. I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah. There's like a couple hundred of them on the island, and that's it.
They whip out their iPhone under their loincloth.
That's what I'd do. I'd throw an iPhone and be like, check this out.
Crazy.
Should we roll?
Yeah. Second segment of our show, we roll our 20-sided die. And the one with the lowest number goes first.
That's not how we did it last time.
That's not how we did it last time. The one with the highest number goes
Has the
first.
honor of going first. I just listened to it.
Positive reinforcement. I see this.
I'm 16.
What'd Sean roll?
3.
All right, so this story that I have is from my father, actually.
Yes.
Ooh.
And this is one that I've never told to you guys.
Ooh.
But
I feel like there's not a lot of those left.
there's not. There's not. So relish.
So this is precious.
Shut the hell up and listen.
Okay.
My father's best friend, childhood best friend, committed suicide when they were in high school. And he hung himself. Super tragic. Both their families were really close. He ended up hanging himself in the shower.
Oh.
Yeah. But every so often, when he would go and visit, or even the family would say, the shower would just turn on.
Damn.
Automatically. All on its own. That's one. Short. That's all there is to it. 2, there was a woman in his village, and for all of you out there, my father grew up on the island of Tonga. It's on the southwest Pacific.
The Kingdom of Tonga.
The Kingdom of Tonga. There was a woman in his village who got hit and run over by a car when he was a child. This happened when everyone was coming home from school.
Damn.
And she got hit in the middle of an intersection. I don't know if she wasn't supposed to be there, or if it was the car's fault, or whatnot. She just got hit. She died. But apparently she still walks across that intersection throughout different times of the day. And, you know, my father was a child at this time, so he would just take the long way home, walking home. Go
Smart. Also, during the day, like, she's haunting children during the daylight hours. That's the scariest thing ever.
Yeah, so
Is nothing safe?
she would appear in the middle of the road, or there were counts of people driving through the intersection,
Oh.
and they would see her sitting in the back seat.
Hell.
Okay.
Dude, that's honestly a trigger for me. Like, that's one of the scariest scenarios. Do you mind if I go into it?
Sure.
So if you've seen, spoiler alert, on Hereditary, but there is like a really pivotal scene that takes place where the brother's driving and the sister's in the back, right? And that has scarred me, dude. So when I'm driving late at night, I will just feel something in the rearview mirror, and I do not look because I'm like, something's there, dude.
I look. I do the same thing, but I check my back seat all the time.
I check before I get in the car, but I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I could just feel the rear view mirror like looking at me, and I'm like, oh damn, if I look, there's gonna be like a ghostly figure of a hit woman in the back seat.
There's a story back home in Hawaii on the island of Maui, And if you've ever been there, it's probably the most touristy island, I would say.
So most likely you've been there.
That makes sense. That's where I had gone first.
Yeah. And there's a famous road that everyone drives called the Road to Hana. And I've been there once as a child, and it sucked. I hated it. It was just so long. I thought it was so boring. And I didn't care about any of that.
Why is it
when I was
like
a kid?
a popular place?
It's just really beautiful, and it's like the
Is it along the
backside-
beach or like?
It's
It's on like a
parts of it.
cliffside.
But most of it,
Oh.
most of it's on the cliffs. It's like the backside of the island.
Hmm.
I got sick and threw up. No surprise there.
Yeah. So the Road to Hana, super long. Takes a couple of hours to complete it.
It's not that far. It's not that like long, but it just takes
But
forever.
it's super windy.
Mm.
So you're going back and forth on this cliffside for an hour or two. And the Hawaiian goddess of fire, her name is Pele. She lives in the fire. She lives in the volcanoes. And she creates life. And she's also death and destruction at the same time. She takes a lot of different forms. And one of them is an old lady. White hair, white dress. And she stands on the side of the road. On the road to Hana. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to pick her up and give her a ride.
If you see this old
If you
white,
see this old lady in a white dress with white hair,
okay,
you're supposed to pick her up and give her a ride. If you pick her up and give her a ride, she'll make small talk, really sweet, really nice. And then you'll see in your rear view mirror a glow, and from her hand she sparks a fire. She lights her cigarette. And there's a flash and she disappears. And that's it. If you don't pick her up, you run off the side of the road at some point and drive off the cliff into the ocean.
damn.
And there's been a ton of people who have driven off that cliff and died. But that's the legend of the Road to Hana.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
I ain't either. Shoot, I hope. No, maybe we picked her up.
Probably, dude.
I'm
What-
still here.
Was that all the story in? There was no more about like. It's because we interrupted you with like the lady sitting in the back.
No, that was it with the lady in the intersection. Actually, there is one more story. Just short stories from him growing up. But so my father's family owned, they lived on a farm. And they had one section of the farm that's about half an acre. And that was their excess produce. And whatever was grown there, anybody could take. But they told everyone in their village, this is like on a needs basis. If you need the food, then take it. Like, we want you to be fed.
That's cool.
And that's the Tongan way. I live with Tongans forever, and it's like, dude, your clothes, your food. If you need it, take it. If you need it, come and take it. What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine.
Very open door policy. Literally, they didn't have doors. At least when I went and visited when I was 12, like, people would just come in. It's like, who are you? It's like, I don't know. Everyone's just hanging out. Everyone's just family there.
That's dope, dude.
Yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, they had this section of land that was available to anyone who needed it, or who needed the food. And at that time, they were growing watermelons. So it got to the point where people started taking more than what they needed, and they were stealing. So my grandfather had to patrol. And one night, my father decided to patrol with him, and they had a horse. So he would just sit on the horse and do laps around that lot at night. And he just make sure people wouldn't come and take. But my father was riding with him on the same horse. And I think he's about 10 years old. And he remembers all of a sudden a chill runs up his spine. And the horse stops. And he turns around, looks behind him, up at his father, and his father, my grandpa, is just muttering like a prayer in Tongan. And my dad turns back around and looks at the ground.
Oh gosh.
And he sees that there's a head on the ground. Just head, no body.
A human head?
A human head. No. And apparently my grandfather was praying. And my dad closed his eyes to do the same. And when they opened their eyes, it wasn't there anymore. But I remember he told me that story when I was a kid. I don't know if it was just to scare me, but he told me that story again like a few years ago. So
Same details.
same details.
Dude, that's always like a tell where it's like they tell you like 10 years later, but it's exactly the same. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's something that's always stuck in my mind is like,
Whoa.
don't grow no watermelons, bro.
Dude, when a horse gets spooked, I'm trusting it.
Oh, animals? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're like dogs when they just start whimpering and running away. It's like, okay, wait for me.
Yeah.
Or when they start like barking into darkness.
Yeah.
Like a dark hall, and they're just like the cat staring in the corner.
Yeah.
Just throw an arrow at that corner.
Terrifying.
So
Because they have senses that we don't. I mean, they can hear and see and taste and smell, but theirs are heightened, obviously. You know, dogs can hear frequencies that humans can't.
And I think we're more prone to doubt ours, and they just react.
Yeah.
Ours
They're
are
so-
dulled by society. Theirs are still close to primal. So
They're not, like, they don't have rhetoric like we do. At least in those situations. One more Hawaiian legend.
Wait, can I ask? So your grandpa is Tongan,
Yeah.
and he owned a horse,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't for dinner.
Yo,
Shout out my Samoans, boy.
I remember,
Just kidding.
for all you out there, horse is a Tongan cuisine.
I had horse when I lived in Australia.
Yeah, dude.
I went to a Tongan
good.
feed, so it was just mad Tongans, and they were like, hey, go and eat, and I'm like, okay. So I was eating, and I was like, what is this? And they're like, it's pig. I held up this thing. I was like, okay, and I start eating it, and I'm looking at this pig, and it's like dark ass meat, super dark. And I'm eating it, and I'm with.
And
this,
you're like, this is good stuff. You
oh,
like that?
Damn,
dark
this is
meat.
good, bro. I was like chomping on these ribs, and then I was with a Maori dude, and he like whispers to me, he's like, "Hey, that's not pig." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Look at the ribs. How many pigs you know with ribs that big?" And I look, and it's like a 3-inch big rib, and I was like, "Damn!" I was like, "That's." So yeah, and then I asked, so I was like, "Hey, is this horse?" And they all just laughed. But the horse is damn good. So
Yeah, dude. When I was 4, I remember my dad showed me a picture of my horse in Tonga. He was like, "This horse is yours." I was like, "Oh, cool." He said, "When we go to Tonga, you'll get to see it." And we got to Tonga 8 years later, and I'm like, "Yo, where's my horse at?"
finna go get gallivanting, dude. Finna go galloping.
Gonna ride till I can't no more.
Yeah. Oh damn.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, they cooked it for your uncle's wedding." So I was like, "Cool,
So
cool
it
story, Hansel."
wasn't my horse.
Yeah, just show me a picture, and yeah. But yeah. So that my last thing, Hawaiian legend, is with dogs. If you get their mucus and you rub it on your eyes,
Oh, no.
Why?
you'll
A dog's mucus?
yes. When you get dog's mucus, rub it on your eyes. You see what they see, which includes
Whoa.
spirits.
Oh shit, that's kind of dope.
Can that be scientifically proven?
Is it
Please?
like...
It can be tested by you, our listener.
Yo, if you're out there, you got a mucusy pug or something,
Hit us up in the
slap up
DM.
them eye holes, bro.
Let us know.
is it like mucus or just saliva? Because, like, do you have to find a dog with, like, a cold or...
Yeah,
you know what
like,
I mean?
it has to be
Like,
snotty.
or is it just any...
That's what we were told growing up. The pigeon term for mucus is hanabatas.
Hanabatas.
Hanabatas. Yeah.
What
You know when like little kids are like just naked, just in their diaper, and like they're like licking their
Yep.
snot coming down from their nose.
We had a friend who did that up until about 18. So
Yeah. And I was like, you need to grow up.
wipe
You need
your
to
nose.
grew up.
You need to grow up a while ago.
But yeah, that's the myth. That's the legend.
Hana Butters.
I think I might just not see like them.
I'm just gonna grab some and rub it on my iPhone lens,
Camera.
and then we'll live stream. How about that?
So like one of the scariest animals, or for me personally, some of the scariest creatures are like birds. Like you think of owls. Owls are terrifying.
Owls are terrifying.
Just how huge their talons are, and
People say that, and I've seen videos of like flocks of birds just chasing people, but I think that's like the funniest thing.
yes, it's hilarious.
when it's
and
happening to
terrifying.
someone else.
I know, yeah, it hasn't happened to me, so we'll see. But yes,
Like
there
if
are
a
people
big-
who are terrified of birds.
Yeah, like if a big eagle came drop down on you, you can't. What are you gonna do? Get wrecked, right?
It has a knife on its face.
And its feet, like it's multiple knives
Yeah.
everywhere. I
It's
was
like
walking.
a Mexican kid in my high school.
Freaking Alberto, dude. I was walking through campus earlier today, and this, as I'm going across, this crow. Also, crows are bigger than small house cats. I was like, holy crap, this thing's just hopping towards me sideways. Oh my God. And I'm like, there's people around me. Like I'm walking through the middle of campus, and I'm just like, why am I the only one experiencing this? Like there's people just sitting around, and I'm just
Hell
hopping
no.
towards me. And so I pick up my pace a little bit, and it just keeps going past me. And it like hops. It doesn't fly to the other side of the park or the kind of square area. It just hopped across for like 50 feet, coming directly at me. So I picked up my pace, got out of there. But I was like legitimately like a little, like when your adrenaline gets up a little bit. I was like ready to kick a raven, dude. I was terrified, and they're smart. So he was trying to bait me, and then his friends were in the trees behind
He
me
had
or
like
something.
50 ravens just posted. Like, hey, take that one.
But I was like, this is not happening. They're like, that's a small human. Let's get him.
That's wild.
Sorry, I'm going to interject one more time. My grandfather grew up in Pittsburgh, and there was this.
Your Howley grandpa?
I thought
Yeah,
Tonga.
okay.
Just kidding.
This is the other grandpa. He grew up in Pittsburgh, and he remembers when he was a child sitting in his living room and watching all the birds on his tree outside start flying at him into the window.
What?
Oh. Like dying, killing themselves?
Like Sinister
And
or
they would-
Insidious.
I've never seen that, but sure.
I imagine, or Conjuring, any possessed
But
situation.
yes,
What were they doing?
They would fly into the window, kill themselves, and they'd find their dead bodies at the bottom of the window and have to clean them up.
He's just sitting there and they're just like,
How old was he?
A child. It was like as early as he could remember. But turns out it was just they had a cherry tree and it was out of season and it would get fermented, so the birds would just get drunk and fly into the window and kill themselves. So
I hate when there's like really logical and like plausible explanations for things. I'm like, God, you're right. That makes sense. Like, dang it.
that's what they want us to believe, though.
Yeah, the ravens are getting drunk.
yeah, who told you that? Some dude's just like, these cherries, they're the cause.
4-year-old Grandpa Ed.
Yes.
He's like, those cherries must be fermented.
It's like, you're fermented, grandpa. Get out of here, old man. My dad grew up in Boston for a large part of his life. And he lived near a ton of marshes and swamps. And my dad, much like me, was a latchkey kid. So one time he was out, he would play in these swamps all the time. And there were, I can't remember this. There was just a ton of things that was kind of like, he'd go catch frogs and just, he'd be out in these swamps. And he came home one time and he's walking up the path to his house and there's this rope lying across the path. And he's like, what? Like my mom, it didn't look like her garden hose. So he's like, what the heck? and it was just this big black rope across the path. And he's like 5, 6. So he was like, this is weird. So he walked up to the rope and picked it up.
Oh,
And his mom comes outside and goes, David, put that down. And he looks down, and it's a huge, long snake, black snake. And he threw it and ran. He was like, what the?
Gosh damn it, Dave! Like thinking it's a rope.
Yeah.
Why is it slithering?
On one of our scouting trips, the week-long hiking, one of the kids forgot to bring extra pairs of socks. So he only had his one pair of socks.
That's
the
so
whole
gross.
Freaking
So
dumbass.
He had like
what we would
all
do
the
is
athlete's feet.
he'd like hang him up at night to dry him out. And we would grab them and pick somebody to stuff it into their mouth. Oh! And we called the sock the Black Mamba. This is black tube sock.
What? Wait,
I couldn't do that.
you would voluntarily put it in your own mouth if you were chosen?
Other kids who were sleeping.
So you'd
that
like-
was the prank.
Oh, I thought you guys were like taking turns, being
I
like,
thought it was just like, it is me. I am the one.
"Oh no, it's my turn to do it tonight." You guys got some feet fetishes going on.
Dude, there would have been hell to pay if I was touched, dude. Feet? No, thank you.
If I got woken up with nasty socks in my mouth, I'd probably murder the first person I could find. My story is about the Waverly Sanatorium. So it's actually considered one of the most haunted places in the world for some reason, or at least in the United States.
Where is it?
It's in southwestern Kentucky. So it used to be a hospital for people with, oh gosh, it's a T, not
Tuberculosis.
That is it. That's what it is. Yeah. So it was a hospital for just people with tuberculosis. But reports they don't know exactly how many people died, but they believe at least 60,000 people died in the sanatorium. And
That's
so
a lot. That's a Jay-Z concert.
Southwest.
That's wild, dog.
Yeah, so started back in southwestern Kentucky, back in around 1910. So it's for, I think originally it was for like people who had tuberculosis. I think it was a bigger deal in the early 1900s, and in the U.S. or whatever. But yeah, I think later on it was turned into different types of hospitals or whatever. It's pretty collectively in like the paranormal investigative community or whatever, is like one of the most haunted places in the world.
It's a hot spot.
Yeah. People always have like crazy experiences. It's huge. It's a big hospital. It's creepy looking too. Just kind of the older looking buildings. It looks very kind of Italian in the way that it's been like constructed, if that makes sense. It's architecture. I don't know what the like Versailles type style. I don't know what the official style is called, but basically, my grandfather's brother, the paranormal investigator dude, researcher dude, him and his friend Ryan were doing some stuff out there, and they were up at one of the higher floors, and they said that the basement was so super sketchy. And so what would happen is when someone would die, they'd put these people in the chutes, and they'd just shoot the dead bodies like all the way down to the basement.
So just like a Sweeney Todd type.
Oh my gosh.
Just like the worst slide you've ever been on in your life.
It's like when you think about the 80s or 90s in like Wall Street, and they're shooting like documents to like other places in the building. It's like the, you know what I mean? Like
The tube.
the tubes. Yeah. I imagine that for bodies.
They had a cadaver tube.
I mean, it probably didn't suck them up, but it was just like they do.
Anyone on the other end? Anyone on the receiving end, like, I don't know, taking care of the bodies? Or is it just like,
I mean, I imagine there's hopefully someone down
it
there
just
doing
sounds like
something.
it just sounds like a porta potty to me.
Oh.
Like, just drop it off.
So they would just, when someone died, they just chuck them in this trash
Basic
chute.
is what it seemed like. Is what it seems like. And so yeah, so it wasn't just that 60,000 people died there, approximately. It was just the way that they died, or just like any asylum, right? Just the way they're treated. Wasn't the best conditions or whatever. My uncle and his friend were up at the 3rd floor, and they were just doing their regular paranormal investigating. They'll have an audio to record any audio that they're getting. They'll be filming as well. He said rarely do they get good footage, but they usually can get some pretty good stuff for audio. So they're just kind of sitting there, And then he said his friend Ryan gets like a bad feeling. And this is one of those things he tells him later, but at the time he'd gotten this kind of creepy feeling. And then my grandpa's brother, I call him my great uncle for ease. My great uncle also says he kind of had like a weird feeling, and it was later on. And all of a sudden they hear like a noise or like a voice calling for a nurse. And it's just them. It's just them in the room, at least at what they know. You know, they don't think there's anyone else around them. So they hear a voice calling for the nurse, and then all of a sudden, out of one of the rooms, they're looking at a hallway, and it's just like just picture your stereotypical 1960s, 50s, 40s type of. They're all the same. That like era of like hospital, right, where it's like. Not like lime green, but it's like greenish. You know what I mean? And it's just very open. And then you have your doors on the side. Very simple structure. And out of one of the rooms is this orb that's like an oval about 5 feet high and just kind of comes out of the room.
Oh my gosh.
And then they see it just go from one room to the next room, to the next room, to the next room, just kind of down the hall. He said it was probably about a span of 20 to 30 seconds to maybe a minute. He's like, I'm not totally sure on the time, but it was moving pretty quickly. But it was almost like a nurse was like checking up in the room, right?
Moving, it's making its way up the hallway through each room towards them.
Through each room
gosh.
towards them. And so it's eventually coming towards them once it gets out of, because they're at like a hallway where the doors kind of open into that section of the hospital. So they're not next to a room necessarily. They're a little bit further away from the room. And so it's coming towards them. And the Ryan kid, he's like, we gotta go. And so they're getting ready to leave. And all of a sudden they hear a pop and it vanishes. But no, yeah, it was crazy. And, basically, they're looking at the audio, they're listening to the audio afterwards, and they hear heels, like on like tile.
Click.
And, you know, I don't know what they were wearing, but I don't think they were wearing heels. So he said that was super creepy, and like he said it was cool. He didn't seem to get creeped out by things. It seemed like his like assistant or dude or partner Ryan would get creeped out, and he would just be kind of like, oh yeah, I guess we should go.
Sometimes when you're with someone and they're freaking out, it calms the other person. Does that make sense?
Oh,
when
yeah.
I'm with someone and they start freaking out, for some reason, it like calms me because I need to be the calm one.
Mm-hmm. I'm the same way. So like if I'm with you guys, I'm always going to be the most scared. But if we have some random person along, or usually
And they're freaking out?
yeah, and I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Or if there's like somebody I'm trying to impress, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not scared.
I was remembering a story that when Jordan started talking about like getting a feeling. And I was talking to a girl the other day, and she told me a story. So for the purpose of this story, we'll change her name, Sarah M. or S. Morrison.
What's her real name?
Is that her name?
No, that's not her name.
We're going to call her Sarah Morrison because
third.
that's her name.
Yeah. Why'd you have to give her a first and last name?
Wait.
That's not her name, by the way.
Okay, so Sarah. Just call her Sarah.
Okay, so I'm talking to her. I asked her, okay, what's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you?
Is that a first date and you're just asking poor girls this?
No.
Okay.
Oh, I am. I'll just message them on like dating apps. What's the scariest story? And if they don't reply, I don't talk to them ever again.
Oh my gosh.
Well, if they don't reply, of course, but.
So she's telling me this story, though. She was meeting up with this guy from Tinder. And they meet up at this place. He says, oh, shoot, I forgot my wallet. It's back in my apartment. Do you want to just ride with me back to my place? We'll grab it. And then we'll come back. And she tells me at that point, she's like, I got this feeling that I shouldn't go.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you did.
And I was like, I mean, that's probably a good call. There's some serious red flags popping up right now.
But she went.
She did not go.
Oh, I was kind of hoping she did.
My butt
But
cheeks all
the
clenched.
thing is, he never texted her back. Like, he never messaged her again after
So
that.
she was just like, nah,
She was like,
I'm not going back.
we can do something again later.
Mm-hmm.
And they split up at that point, never messages her again. Now, hypothetically, he could have just been super embarrassed and didn't message her back. There is another scenario where something else might have happened. But it was that feeling that she got that was like, don't do it.
Yeah.
I've like heard stories from like friends who are girls who like have been in situations like that where the dude's just trying to coerce them into coming home so abruptly and like so. It's like, dude, just be normal. Go on a good date. Have a good time. She gonna come over. Like, that's all you gotta do.
I don't know where I heard this rule. Could be from a podcast or some movie. But I've always... it just like when you're saying that, someone said, never go to the second location. Does that make sense?
Like the backup.
Yeah, or like, so you meet up with someone, you decide to meet here, and then they're like, okay, let's go here. And I don't know, I can't remember where that rule's from, but it's like, don't go wherever they're saying to go away from.
That sounds like a rule of thumb that's
Probably
has
good.
like, yeah.
Girls do that to me all
I
the
feel
time.
like it was associated with like clubbing and stuff. So like, if you're going out and they're like, hey, now we're going to head over to my friend Ricky's house by the river. It's like, no, don't go there.
He lives in a van.
I have a story from a friend, somewhat similar. Her name is Allison, and
Real name or this or alias?
this is her real name.
Oh, shout out Allison.
Shout out Allison. She, and we've shared in previous podcasts before that we served as missionaries, Mormon missionaries. And this was during her mission. She was in Guatemala.
If you have any questions about like Mormons and Mormon missionaries, just go watch South Park. It'll answer everything.
Truth. So she's in Guatemala, and you always have what's called a companion, and you go 2 by 2. And basically your whole purpose is to help people, whether it's by service or teaching them about, our beliefs. And sometimes they do what's called street contacting.
Basically, you're just trying to strike up conversations with anyone.
Yeah.
Just like, hey.
Getting to know them. And if they show interest, you offer, this is what we do. If you'd like to learn more, we'd love to meet with you again. And while they're street contacting, this really friendly guy comes by. He's like, I've seen you guys. Like, who are you? They explain that they're the Mormon missionaries. And they're just talking. And she has a pretty good feeling about this guy. And he's like, yeah, I live here. Come over and, I don't know, answer some of my questions. And they're like, yeah, we'd love to come over and teach you sometime. So he writes down his address, gives it to them. She puts it inside her little daily planner, and she forgets about it. Later that night, they go home, and they have missionaries a lot of times do evaluations. At the end of the day, they just talk about how the day went, and they're reviewing the different people that they met. And then she opens her planner, and she's like, oh yeah, we talked to this one dude. We have his information here. Let's plan a time to, meet up with him again. And she opens up the note to read it. And it's his address, quote unquote. And the address is the address right next door to them. Not only that, but they had no next door neighbors, and nobody lived there. It was empty.
So he like knew where they lived.
Yes, he knew where they lived and gave them their address. Or at least the one for right next door to where they live. But
That is terrifying.
so scary.
What if he's just trolling? He's just like, oh, I'm gonna get these Mormons.
Whether it's trolling or not, and like from their perspective, it's just predatory.
Oh, that's
And
terrible.
it's
Yeah, it's
so
terrifying.
scary.
That dynamic, yes. It's cat and mouse. It's, I know where you are, and I'm showing you.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrifying.
That was the last of it, though.
The
Nothing
crazy
else
thing
happened.
that
I
there wasn't
would-
a physical address next door. Even like the fact that he like made up an address next door to them is crazy.
And they knew they had no neighbors. Like, nobody lived there.
oh,
and
it was
they
an
were-
actual build. Okay,
Yeah.
I was thinking it was like 5511, and they were like 5512, same street, and you're like, there's not a there's not even a building here. Like, that's what I thought.
It was an apartment complex. Sorry, I should have said that. But yeah, next door.
Oh,
And they knew no one was
Yeah,
living in
nobody
it.
that's
lived-
even creepier. An
Yeah,
apartment complex
and they're home evaluating this. And
next door.
yeah,
I would start crying. I would run to the door and lock it if I hadn't already.
he's already in the house with
Oh,
you,
gosh.
so you just locked yourself in.
Because he went home from the market early. Dude,
He's been waiting for them.
he was probably sitting in their closet watching.
Good lord.
Being a girl would be so fucking. I'm already terrified enough as an undersized male. Like, I can't imagine being a woman.
So there was girl missionaries in my mission,
Mm,
and they were street contacting,
yeah.
and they were like, "Oh, let's go talk to those two gentlemen." And they walk up and like, "Hi, we're sisters for the church of," and they look down, and the guy is dealing the other dude drugs. He's handing him drugs, and the guy's handing him money back. And they're like, "Oh, sorry, we'll just leave you." They turn around there, and the guy's like, "Come back." And they're like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't mean to enter." And he's like, "What'd you see?" We didn't see anything. I don't, we got to go. And they like try to get away. And the guy's like, "What'd you see?" And he starts following them. But they were like other people around. So the guy stopped and they left. But when they get home, they're going into their apartment and they see him pull up in a car and park outside. And they're like standing in their doorway,
Why'd you go straight
obviously
home?
in their home. So they had to move. I have a story. It's kind of switching gears. In my hometown, like I mentioned previous, I would always go do every folklore I heard of. And so this is about one of those times where I was exploring folklore. So near my hometown, there is a graveyard way out in the orchards. It's like 30 minutes from my home. You take old farm roads out to this orchard. And there's this grave at this graveyard that's famous. It's called Fly's Grave. So it's a big rock, a big rectangular rock, and the only words on it are FLY. And it's at the very back of this graveyard. And they say that it glows in the moonlight.
What is this? The entrance to the mines of Moria?
You're supposed to speak friend. No. So what you do, there's different versions of the story, but I'm going to tell you the one that resonated with me the most. Fly's Grave, what you're supposed to do is you stand at the gate of the graveyard. And if you're standing at the gate, if you walk straight back for like half a mile, you'll eventually come to Fly's Grave. And you see it in the light, you touch it, and you turn around, and you walk straight out of the graveyard. And you do this alone. Where no matter what you hear, or see, or feel, you do not turn around. So that's the urban legend. That's what you do. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go do it.
Of course.
And I've gone to this place several times, and I have different experiences there. When Sean came to visit Visalia, and I was like, dude, I got to show you all the sites, the homeless encampment. I got to show you
Thriving homeless population.
115 degree weather. No. But yeah, when Sean came to visit Visalia, I was like, dude, let's go out here. And he was obviously down. So we went with our friend Kale, and we didn't do it alone because we are not brave. So we all end up just going together. We walk straight back.
I think we held hands as we walked back.
No, I don't remember that, dog. That doesn't sound like me, bro. What are you talking about?
Yeah, me either.
But we walk back in relative silence. We get to Fly's Grave. We all stare at it, and it is just a rectangular rock with the word or with letters FLY etched into the front.
There's no date. It's
Nothing
just
is on
fly.
there.
It's wild.
Yeah, and it does kind of glow in the moonlight because you can see it like from far off. You're like, what the? So we touch it. All of us touch it, and we turn around and we start walking out, and we're about halfway out, and I'm like, okay, this is fine. And all of a sudden we hear boom, boom, boom. These like really low booms coming from the orchard behind us. And all of a sudden, and then start shuffling faster until all of us are running.
You heard 4 simultaneous whistles.
So what you're supposed to do, is not look back, not react, get in your car, and when you turn your car on, you'll see a light in your rear view mirror. And that light is from the motorcycle of the guy who crashed and died, and that's who's buried at Fly's grave. So that's the legend. I decided to go out there one night with 2 of my sisters and one of my friends who was also a girl. So we drive to Fly's grave and we park out at the entrance of the graveyard. I turn my truck off, so we're sitting there in darkness. And as we're sitting there, we're all looking at the graveyard and we're like, I don't really know. I'm not feeling it. I don't really want to get out. And my sisters were pretty scared and they were like, yeah, I'm not getting out. So I was like, well, I just drove us here. Like, is anyone going to do this? And they're like, nah. So I was like, oh, fine, whatever. So I turned my car back on and I turn the key and the headlights come on and there is a huge black dog going 3 feet in front of my truck. It's big. And I was like, whoa. And like my sister screamed and the dog's walking across the front of my car and it just looks in at us and its eyes are shining, from like the luminescent dog thing. And I was like, what the? So I flashed my brights a couple times and it takes off into the orchard. And I was like, dude, we could have been outside with this huge black dog, no collar. And we would have been just in this graveyard with this dog. And we're driving home and I'm like, we just saw a Grim.
That's what I was going to say.
Same,
the Grim. Yeah.
That was so good. I was going to say, have you had your tea leaves read recently?
And my sister, who hasn't read Harry Potter, was like, what's that? And I was like, dude, we just saw a legitimate Grim. And she's like, what is that? I was like, it's an omen of death. We're all going to die in 24 hours. And so I go home and she's like, oh, I don't
She's
know.
all Hermione Granger.
Yeah. She's like, it's Leviosa. No. So I go home and I start Googling Grim. And what Grims are big, spectral black dogs that guard graveyards. And they have shining red eyes. And they usually disappear in flashes of light.
You flashed your brights.
Dude, I was tripping. I was like, it fits.
Is it Scottish or Welsh
Scottish.
folklore? Okay. Scottish folklore.
92% Scottish. I'm saying it's Scottish.
Okay.
That's how sure I am.
It makes sense.
But yeah, dude, I was waiting to die, and that was 15 years ago. So
Oh, dude, you chill.
I either escaped or his 24 hours is different than ours. So
Oh, well, that could be it.
Damn. I heard 24 hours in dog years is like 16 years in human.
see you guys.
24 hours in dark here.
Yeah.
Is
a
the
little bit
Grim
left.
supposed to be like the Grim Reaper's pet? Is that what it's supposed to be, or do they just,
I
are
don't
they
know.
connected at all?
I've never heard them connected, but
It's interesting.
yeah. So who knows?
I mean, even if it's not a haunted dog, big dog in darkness, I'm not trying to mess around.
Haunted or not, yeah, I'm not trying to deal with a dog, especially if it's aggressive. No, thank you.
Or black at night.
Is it? Do
I
they
ain't trying
have
to
the
fight
same-
something I can't see.
That's when it growls at you. There's teeth. Is it like the same rules as like black cats?
Well,
You
it
can't,
crossed
like-
my path, so
You should be dead by now.
yeah, I'm screwed. So if you have any ideas on how to close this podcast, let us know. Email us at
3 a.m. podcast stories at gmail.com. We're out here struggling with how to end this podcast. Now, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Bye.